I love her. I've had 3 weeks with her.
I love Julie.
Yeah,
She's just very kind. Such a sweet person. So fun.
Every time, like after I was like, I always go into her office to talk to her before this class. It's not like that, right? I know. There's just that's how I feel like coming from.
Okay.
That's good.
All right. Good morning. How was it?
Yeah.
Good. Got some thumbs up. I'll take that. We get a full week this week. Feels like we haven't had a full week. Yeah. We get like a Monday and a Wednesday, and a Monday and a Wednesday next week. And then 18 days from now, I'll be on my cruise ship. I was telling my class before this, I already started packing just a little bit. Like,
well, they're finding Miami. The cruise would start till a week from today, but they leave on Saturday.
oh, I'm jealous. Like, I'm ready. I've been researching. It's like the weather in Texas isn't great right now. So there was like a tornado the other day. I'm like, it's gonna be interesting. So yeah, just a casual tornado. So yeah, we'll see. I'm hoping the weather gets a little better in the next couple of weeks for Texas. I'm not the most excited about the Texas part of my trip, but the rest of it,
It's okay.
hopefully will be fun.
Yeah,
I'm only there for 2 days, right? Yeah, not too bad. I haven't flown in a long time, like before COVID. So I haven't flown in like 4 years. So yeah, I'm like, we're already having this huge debate and like, are we gonna wear masks? I said yes. My kid said no. You know, like we'll see who wins. Probably not me. I never win. But yeah, I'm like, I don't want to spend the whole cruise sick. So I'd rather wear a mask getting there. And if I get sick on the way back, then whatever. But I don't want to get sick on the way there. Like, I don't want to spend the whole time not being able to taste all the food on it. Why am I going? Anyway, so we get to move to a new chapter today. I think this is kind of a really interesting, fun chapter. We'll look a lot at like stereotypes. We're going to talk about communication, especially gendered communication. I have some great clips. I think they're great, highlighting this that we'll watch related to it. And I want to remind you that your first homework assignment is due by tonight at 11:59 p.m. on Canvas. We talked about it a few weeks ago and mentioned it last time I saw you. But remember that first one. So it's worth 25 points. So it's worth like 2.5 participations. You definitely want to spend some time on this. If you haven't done it yet, there are a couple of options that don't require you to go anywhere that you can do a little easier. Hopefully, you spent some time. I heard some of you talking about it. Like you could have gone somewhere, you could have done kind of a reflection. There's a few options, so make sure you look online. Some of you have already submitted it. I've actually graded a few of them and already as well. But make sure you get that turned in by tonight. If you don't have it done by then, you can still turn it in late by email for 10% off each day. So better sooner than later, but better late than not at all. Right. So try and get it in before 11:59 p.m. tonight. But if you miss that, you can still email it to me in the coming days. Okay. Are there any questions at all about that? Just to double check anything you're confused about, questions at all? Yeah.
So I actually did mine CMB,
Okay.
and I did mine on like this sperm donor thing.
Nice.
And I saw on one of the things, because if anybody else did theirs already, they look for like genetic diseases and
Yeah.
STDs, but I didn't know that they also look for something called CMV, and I had no idea what that is.
For what?
CMV.
CMV. I'm not sure
Yeah. So
what that stands for.
I did a little research on it myself. I'm still a little confused on it, but I guess it's related to herpes,
Okay.
but it's
CMV.
not like an active STD or something. I don't know. It's still sexually transmitted.
Huh.
And I guess it's often genitally translated, like from the mother.
Okay.
But I guess like the worst effects would be on newborns. So that's why it's not really like a thing.
I'll have to look that up. I'm not off the top of my head. That doesn't sound familiar at all. I'll look it up and see if I can find out more. That's interesting. They look for a lot. And you can buy profiles on the donors that you could buy their baby pictures and get their look-alike pictures. And, yeah. It's interesting. It's a process. Right. Yeah, because all of your medical history is out there to be weighed, right? By people who are considering using that donor. It's interesting. I can tell you it's interesting trying to pick between medical histories, right? Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That one.
Yeah, interesting.
Got it.
Okay. Do you remember what it stands for? You're like, I can find it, but yeah.
It's like a long.
Yeah, I'm super sad.
Like identifier, it's the same family tree as herpes, but it also affects some newborns, so I'm pretty sure that's.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I can't remember what it stands for. I'll look it up in a minute too, but yeah, it they look for everything, whether it's STDs or STIs, your family history of cancer, family history of everything. Really interesting to think about if you could choose those elements, what would you choose to omit or not omit? Yeah.
It's called cytomegalovirus.
Okay, right. Yeah, totally easy to say, right? You can see why we go with CMV instead, right? Interesting, yeah. And if it's gonna obviously affect newborns, you would want to know that, right? If you were weighing that donor for your choices. Interesting. Okay. Well, I look forward to reading your papers, and you'll do 2 of these over the semester. So you'll pick one for now and then one for a later time. So again, I hope you pick ones that push you, right? If you didn't get to it this time because it involved a little more than you had the time for, you have like a month and something before the next one to plan your field trips or whatever you want to do, right? So other than that, I wanted to remind you, otherwise we'll jump into this. So we're going to talk about communication and a lot of things related to like male and female differences. Stereotypical, a lot of stereotypes in this chapter. Was that a hand? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Is this more of like, is it like more like relationships, this section, or is it like cyber communication too?
More like relationships and how men versus women tend to communicate and how that can lead to issues in relationships. So, and we're stereotyping male versus female communication, but you know, that could apply to anyone. Like, so it's really, it'll be interesting as we talk about it and think about it and think about how it may or may not apply to you. So communication in general, we start super broad and then we'll get into gendered communication. Communication is trying to convey something meaningful to somebody else, right? So trying to convey something to all of you. I'm communicating with you right now. We can communicate verbally, which we do, but a lot of our communication is also nonverbal. You can tell a lot about somebody's mood, somebody's comfort level, their interest, and all sorts of different things based on their nonverbal communication. If you ever had a friend walking up to you and you can just tell they're in an awful mood just by their body language, right? My father-in-law yesterday, I haven't seen them in like a week because they weren't feeling well. He walked up and I could just tell he was in the worst mood, and I just turned around and walked in a different direction. I was like, nope, not doing it, right? I haven't seen you in a week and we could make it too, right? And just walked in the other direction because he was in an awful mood. I could just tell, right? You can tell a lot by somebody's nonverbal stuff, their eye contact, their head nodding, how close they stand to you, how far away they are from you. In general, if we are comfortable with someone, we tend to stand closer to them. If we're uncomfortable, we tend to stand farther away. Now, this has changed a little bit with COVID. We tend to stand farther away in general now. Like my definition of close has changed. I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but when people get in my bubble, I'm like, dude, back off, right? Like I was at the grocery store and this woman was like way too close to me. I was like 6 feet, right? Like I know we don't care anymore, but back off. And I kept moving this way and she kept following me.
Dude, least favorite thing ever. It makes me like want to literally scream.
Yeah.
At the person.
Oh,
I
totally.
like the space.
I like the space.
Like, I like when they're on top of me, I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel classy focused.
And this can be very cultural. I have a coworker who's not from the United States, and she's always like right here. And if I back up, she follows me, and I'm like in a corner of the room. She's like, and I'm like, yeah, really.
Like, I'm very much of like, hey guys, like I want a hug. Like you know, if some random person came up to me, can I have a hug? I'd be like, yeah, sure. Like, but also I was born with like six siblings, so
So you're used to having your space taken, right?
part, but
Yeah.
I'm very much after COVID. I was like with my boyfriend, we're always like hugging them.
Yeah, and everybody has a different preference for contact, right? Like some people love to have people like right up in their space. Yeah,
He's the one that's like, hey,
interesting.
especially after our argument.
Mhm.
Like, not really argument, like a talk. Like
Yeah.
yesterday we had like a long talk about something. And he's very much like, okay, like I'll lay in my little area, my little bubble.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, hey, I want a hug. Like,
Sure.
But yeah, totally different.
And that creates interesting dynamics sometimes in relationships, right? When you have one person very touchy, very like close, and the other person, I like my space. In our relationship, it's so funny. My partner is so like, I like my bubble, And I'm like, come in my bubble, right? Like, I'm like, and so the funny thing is our kids, because they know that like my partner doesn't like people in her space, they smother the crap out of her. And I'll be on the couch, like, come sit with me, come sit. I'm free, I have all this space and nobody will sit with me. And they're like on top of her and she's like, get off of me. It's so ironic, right? Like every time I'm like, do I need to play hard to get or something? Like, it's not really a skill set of mine. I'm like, not that way. But it's so interesting. We all have different preferences for what makes us feel comfortable, right? And we tend to communicate that non-verbally. Yeah. Sure. Yes.
Feel like more touch or.
Yeah, we all have our love languages, right? Like you want to get right to my heart, you bring me something like a dessert, right? I'm right there, right? Like I'm easy that way, but everybody has their own love language. Everyone has their own comfort level. And again, we communicate a ton non-verbally, right? Especially emotions. And I think I mentioned this to you all earlier in the semester. I love watching couples on dates because you can tell how well it's going by their body language, right? You can tell instantly, like if you look over and they're all like, you know, completely not engaged, not looking at each other on their phones, it's not going so well, right? Or like, I like to guess how long they've been together based on their body language. And I have no way of knowing, I don't go ask, I'm not creepy or anything, but you can tell a lot about like people and their moods and their comfort from this stuff. Yeah.
I want to know if you this type of body language, because I notice sometimes, like very rarely, I'll notice sometimes some couples will go out to eat and they don't sit across from each other, they'll sit next to each other.
Yeah.
And it's just like you are, I don't know, it just seems
Interesting.
like too much.
It's too much for you.
It was like so uncomfortable. I was like,
I
just like go to the other side right now. please.
Like you go,
It's like really big.
here, like how do you comfort? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, and for me, it's just practical. If you're talking to someone, if they're across from you,
Yeah.
it's easier. I think it's just a personal preference. Some people like to sit immediately next to someone and others, it's like, I want to be able to see you, right? I never get to sit next to my partner because the kids, but when we sit across from each other, I can communicate with you.
Started just them in their bed for the first time in, how old's my sister? Maybe like 12 years now.
Okay.
Because my brother's now 6.
Yeah.
He's finally sleeping in bed. So now
Mhm.
like it's literally been 12 years. And
Wow.
my parents have had kids in their bed.
I never allowed that. My kids, I was like, nope, not happening. Yeah. And it's tough, right? So like some people like to sit next to each other like that. Others across. So some of you had that like, oh, hell no. And others of you were like, like I could see there was like a range of reactions. I mean, and you can, like I said, you can tell a lot, but you don't always know what it means, right? Because everybody has their own comfort level. Like some couples might not be talking to each other and they're both playing on their phone, but they're okay with that. Like it works for both of them. And other couples, that's a bad sign. Like it can depend, right? I found all these images and I really had to like narrow it down, but they were just like non-verbal communication, like happy, smiling, touching, right? Versus like backs to each other, arm crossed, right? Like I tend to cross my arms because it's comfortable. Like it doesn't necessarily mean I'm like closed off or angry. So like, again, you don't always know the context, but I stand like this a lot just because it's, I don't know, it's comfortable to me. But you can see like a very clear difference. I found so many of these. I narrowed it down. Facing each other, happy, smiling versus like contempt, right? Eye rolling is a sign of contempt. We'll talk about that. 4 more, right? Okay. So in therapy, which isn't super relevant to our class, but in couples counseling, it's fascinating to watch how people sit and where they sit in a therapy room. So my background is as a counselor, and I did a lot of couples counseling as a therapist trainee, and not that, more of that, right? And so what you would see is, well, so typically when you go into, it depends on the therapist's office, but a lot of them have like a couch, right? It's the stereotype of therapy. And then there's traditionally chairs. And so what you might see is partners will sit like next to each other, they're touching, they're like open to each other. That communicates something very different than arms crossed, different ends of the couch, not touching, or one sits on the couch and one sits on a chair and they're not even anywhere near each other. So even like where you sit in relation to people can be meaningful non-verbally, especially in therapy. Super interesting. And that's why you have a variety of seats. You see where they choose without any prompting. And that can indicate how well they're doing or not doing. Or it could just be some people like more space than others, right? Last one, I love that, right? Eye rolling and contempt, right? So I found so many of these. Again, non-verbally, we communicate so much, right? And it's just something that I think is really interesting, especially when we're looking at like a dynamic between a couple, which is kind of what we're focusing a little bit more on in this class. But what we'll spend most of today talking about is gendered communication. Right. And this is riddled with stereotypes. This is not going to fit everyone. And there are going to be some people who identify as female who communicate more masculine, or some who are more masculine who communicate more feminine, stereotypically. But we're going to talk a lot about these stereotypes of male versus female communication. And super interesting. How many of you have watched Wednesday? Like the show Wednesday, right? Such a fun show. We watched it twice, I think. But I was watching it a couple of days ago, and there's a whole scene between Enid and what's his name? Ajax, right? Enid and Ajax, where they're talking, like she goes on and on and on. She's trying to ask him out, and he just totally doesn't get it, like completely over his head. And she finally snaps and is like, look, I'm trying to ask you out. I found the scene. I'm going to play it for you. But it was just but there are a lot of people who have studied this, right? This is a very popular topic, looking at what we can call genderlect. It's a term that was coined by a researcher named Deborah Tannen. She is probably one of the more respectable, has a PhD, very well known researcher in studying the fundamental differences between the ways that men and women communicate. And she wrote a book. I have these two books. These are probably the two most popular books related. So hers is You Just Don't Understand. And then there's The Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, the other one. Pass them around. They're both really easy reads. But they go over these common fundamental differences between the ways that men and women communicate, and then how to navigate those differences in relationships, because they can cause problems. So Tannen, what's that? They are completely sexist, and they are completely stereotyped and completely overgeneralized. And sometimes they're 100% true, and other times not at all, right? It depends on the person. So for me, yeah, completely. Very much so. And I'm glad that it makes you mad. I think that's actually a really good spot to be in. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm female, right? Like my sex is female. I communicate so much more in a stereotypically male way, so much more. It's just how I tend to communicate. Do I view that as male communication? No, I just view it as my communication, right? But I think that you have to understand the fundamental stereotypical differences before you can then break them down and talk about how they're kind of ridiculous, right? And so we're approaching it from a stereotypical standpoint, but I love that you said that, because it's true, right? They are very overgeneralized and not true for everyone, but they are true for some people. And these lead to common issues in heterosexual relationships, right? Which are still the majority, right? So we tend to talk about that more. But they can play out in any relationship, and we could talk about that too. So one of Deborah Tannen's ideas is that women, stereotypically again, tend to be more obsessed with what she called rapport talk, and men report talk. So women are more interested in rapport, stereotypically, where they care more about the connections with people, and men reporting, imparting facts or information. And that can sometimes get in the way of how they communicate with each other. Tag questions, disclaimers, and hedge words. That stereotypically women are more likely to use these three things. A tag question is when you add a little statement at the end of something you say, almost like you're uncertain and you're just checking to make sure it's right. So you could say it's really cold out today, isn't it? Right? It's almost like an uncertainty, right? That you're adding to the end of something, right? You understand, right? You're checking. It's almost like this little tag at the end of a statement. Or disclaimers, right? I might be wrong, but I'm not sure, but women are more likely to add those things. And from Tannen's perspective, it's because they don't want to jeopardize the relationship and by asserting that they know more than another person.
This could be the case because women are socialized from a very young age to be submissive and to be yielding.
Yep.
And to believe that they're not right. and that they're not necessarily right.
Yeah, this has a lot to do with social constructions, right? Men are less likely to use these things because men stereotypically have a little bit more power than women, and it's been socialized that way. So women are more likely to add like hedge questions and tag questions and disclaimers or hedge words because of social factors, right? It's exactly true. You had your hand up. Yeah.
I was gonna say. Oh, I was gonna say, like, I would say it does fit like 100% affects like your relationship with the rapport versus with work.
Uh-huh.
Because my boyfriend, I can tell, he's very a fact person.
Yeah.
And I'm very much of a person who's like, oh, I'm gonna like more, like I'm more into the connection more than, but like, he's definitely like this sort of, right? But like, so he notices when we'll be like, if we do argue, I'll be like, okay, and I'll just give up. I'll just be like, okay, it's fine, like, I'm sorry. You know, and then he'll be like, oh, you know what, I'm so sorry, like, I didn't mean to make you, but like, I can definitely tell that I've been kind of like changed to the point where it's like, okay, like, I'll back down. Even if I'm right, I'm just gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, and if you've been with somebody for a long time, you figure each other out, right? Like you start to learn, this is how they communicate, this is how I communicate, and this is how we're going to avoid like pitfalls, right? And oftentimes the first years of a relationship are spent trying to figure out how to negotiate. Yeah, and like if you can find your way through that, like it gets so much easier, right? Because you know, like, okay, this is what's going to happen, this is what I can expect, and this is how we're going to navigate a fight.
But we're still trying to figure it out.
Oh, for sure. I've been with my partner almost 20 years and we still try and figure it out, right? I would say if you care enough to try and figure it out, you're in a good spot, right? Regardless of how long you've been. The last thing, she said that women, kind of building on the first one, women are more about community, right? Stereotypically, and men more about contest. Again, those facts kind of status being more important. She's much more academic in her approach than the other one, which I handed out to you. The other really big researcher, Dr. John Gray, very popular book, one of the more commonly read books, right? Men are from Mars and women are from Venus. He has kind of this interesting like metaphor that women and men are literally from different planets. I want to play you the intro of the book. I had it on like, I listened to it in the car like forever ago, and I still have it. So I want to play it for you just the first like minute or two. It got tired of waiting for me. And you can hear kind of his main premise. Let's see. Oh, okay. I can't pull the computer or the keyboard out. I'm like, what's my password? I don't know. Too many passwords. Okay, good. All right. Like that would have been a short clip for you. So I'm just going to play you the first like it's like maybe 2 or 3 minutes of the book.
Harper Audio presents Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus by Dr. John Gray. Imagine that men are from Mars and women are from Venus. One day long ago, the Martians, looking through their telescopes, discovered the Venusians. Just glimpsing the Venusians awakened feelings they had never known. They fell in love and quickly invented space travel and flew to Venus. The Venusians welcomed the Martians with open arms. The love between the Venusians and Martians was magical. They delighted in being together, doing things together, and sharing together. Though from different worlds, they reveled in their differences. They spent months learning about each other, exploring and appreciating their different needs, preferences, and even behavior patterns. For years, they lived together in love and harmony. Then they decided to fly to Earth. In the beginning, everything was wonderful and beautiful, but the effects of Earth's atmosphere took hold, and one morning, everyone woke up with a peculiar kind of amnesia, selective amnesia. Both the Martians and Venusians forgot that they were from different planets and were supposed to be different. And one morning, everything they had learned about their differences was erased from their memory. And since that day, men and women have been in conflict. Without the awareness that we're supposed to be different, men and women are at odds with each other. We mistakenly assume that if our partners love us, They will react and behave in certain ways, the way we react when we love someone. Men mistakenly expect women to think, communicate, and react the way men do. Women mistakenly expect men to feel and communicate and respond the way women do. We've forgotten that men and women are supposed to be different. As a result, our relationships are filled with unnecessary friction and conflict. Clearly recognizing and respecting these differences dramatically reduces confusion when dealing with the opposite sex. When you remember that men are from Mars and women are from Venus, everything can be explained.
Okay, so that's his premise, right? Again, stereotyped, right? Very stereotyped, but that's where he kind of comes at it in his book, right? That going with the symbolic idea that men and women are from different planets, hence the title, right? Probably one of the most popular gender communication related books. And he talks a lot about common struggles that like men and women can face in relationships with each other. One of the most common ones being the first bullet, right? That oftentimes women want to just be listened to and men want to offer advice. Now you're like, yeah, my partner and I have hit the point where like, I'll ask, be like, do you want me to just listen or do you want advice? Like, because it matters, right? I've learned over time because I'm a fixer, like I want to fix, right? Like, so if my partner's like has a problem, I'm like, how do I fix it for you? I want to fix it, right? She'll be like, I'm struggling with X, and I'm like, oh, I've got like, hey, I can fix that for you. And sometimes she'll get mad at me, like, I'm just trying to tell you about it. So over time, we've learned, like, do you want me to listen or do you want advice? And we avoid that problem. But it's a very common, it's a very common male-female communication pattern issue. That a lot of couples
How
struggle
did you
with.
communicate that?
Just like that.
I tried them. And he's like, I am, but why not have a solution too? No, I don't even want you to like tell me what to do. I don't even myself.
Yeah.
But it's like, I need someone to talk to. It's not even like,
And like validate your feelings.
yes,
Like, I just want to be
someone who
heard.
listens, yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't try. He doesn't get it.
It's so common. It's one of the most common male-female communication pattern struggles, right? And so for us, it was a matter of like just talking about it. Like for me, I mean, I tend to be like, I think because I am still female, I might have a little bit more like sensitivity, but I tend to be like, okay, just tell me. If you tell me you want X, and then I sit there the whole time, like, but I can. My head, I'm like, I have a whole, and like at the end, sometimes I'll be like, when we're done talking about it, I'll be like, if, you know, if ever want some solutions, I have like 5, I can fix that for you now that we've talked about it. Yeah. Because that's how it's like, I'm listening and I want to help you, but you just want to be listened to and validated and heard. But you can find ways to meet in the middle of like, okay, you listen to me, validate me, and don't offer solutions, don't interrupt. But then like, if you want to propose your solutions later, once we've done that, that could work too. That's how we do it. Because I'm sitting there the whole time like, oh, you can fix that. Like, and then I'm like, stop. That's a good point, right? And like, rather than like interrupting you and making you mad and then fight because you didn't feel heard, right? He can write it down and get his thoughts out. You can get your thoughts out, and then you're both happy. And that's kind of the premise behind the book: is how do we navigate these problems? Yeah.
That used to be a problem with me and my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of already knew this, and so like I made sure to communicate that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that like writing down solutions is a good compromise,
Sure.
but I also, he told me that a big reason why, you know, at first it was hard for him to follow with just listening or knowing when to listen versus not to, was because he didn't know like how to just listen. Like,
Yeah.
he didn't know like what I expected or what I would like. So
Sure.
I told him like, okay, if I'm complaining about something and I'm telling you I just want to complain,
Yeah.
then just listen to what I'm saying, just validate me. I just need validation.
Sure.
That's
Sure.
it. And so I, you know, took a little bit, but after a while, like, you got it. Just validation.
Right.
That's all.
And when you're with somebody, whether it's gender related, so these are gender trends, but it might just be people too. Like, I mean, people communicate in different ways. And so this is a common issue, right? And if you're aware of it and you talk about it, it's not going to be as much of a problem as if you like aren't aware of it, right? Yeah.
I feel like in like other relationships too, like friendships. And,
Yeah.
like, romantic relationships, this is a big thing.
Yeah, it could be friendships too,
Because-
family.
Yeah, because my like best friend, she is the type of person that like always asks for my opinion.
Yeah.
But like also like I don't need to like, you need to figure this out on your own in a little bit of a way. And like
Sure.
she like needs my like opinion to like make a decision. I don't know. And
Yeah.
I find it really interesting, like
Mhm.
that it happens with everyone.
Yeah, it could be a romantic relationship, a friendship, family. It could be a coworker, right? Like
Mhm.
this is stuff that it doesn't have to be romantic. It's just, you know, communication differences
Yeah.
are sometimes hard to navigate, right? Yeah,
I think this is a timeless conflict
sure.
that isn't necessarily just between a man and a woman.
Yeah, it could be between anyone, right? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again,
There
we're
are simply different types of people.
Yeah.
So someone could be a person who wants to fix someone
Yeah.
else's problems and another person.
Right.
could be someone who wants to
personality and gender. It could be either, right? It definitely could be either, right? Mhm.
Yes, Sarah is a bitch.
Right? Or not even that, right? Just nod and listen, right? Yeah.
Like we've forgotten that men and women are supposed to be different because that's kind of the thing that you hear from like I'm a non-binary person
Yeah.
and I get to hear everything from like conservatives who want to get or whatever.
Sure.
But
I can
there's always
relate
that
to
like
that.
difference of people are forgetting that men and women are supposed to be different. Since they're supposed to be different, they're supposed to be separate. I don't know why, like, and then that hatred of like anything in between.
Other, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's like it's very binary. And we're
Very
supposed to separate
binary.
each other, and it's such a like, odd stereo. Also, according to this, apparently I communicate with man.
Yeah.
So-
Right, and I imagine a lot of you, and so these are, yeah, they're very gendered, male, female. What about all the people who don't identify that way? I would identify myself as well as non-binary, but I communicate stereotypically masculine, like from these books' perspectives, sometimes, and sometimes I'm much more feminine, right? Like, and so I think, you know, I love that you're seeing the problems. This is a very problematic area, but how many of you have nodded as I'm saying this, like at the same time? So like as ridiculous and stereotyped as it might be, it often applies to, right? Yeah.
One thing, I feel like the great thing about someone standing, but you have to tell them what you need.
Yeah.
You have to be like, this is
Yeah.
like the end result that I wanted.
This is what I want.
Not
Mhm.
like that, you need to change, but like what I need you to do.
Sure.
But like I've noticed that because I just started doing it.
Yeah,
Before, like I kind of just, it wasn't really clicking that I was just expecting you to like.
Yeah.
Understand what I wanted, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? But like, once you literally tell them exactly, like you just got straight up with it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like.
yeah, and then may or may not be gendered, right? So I'll share something with you that. So I'll share something with you that might be like, it may be too personal, but I don't mind. Like, so as a child, I experienced a lot of trauma, like in my childhood. My mom would like disappear for weeks on end. Like she would just be gone, like she struggled with depression and she would just vanish, right? So when my partner and I first started dating, when she gets upset, she takes off. It was a huge button for me, like massive, like it triggered me to the trauma from childhood, right? And so when my partner would get mad, she'd get in her car and leave. And like it literally almost destroyed our relationship because I couldn't, I would get in my car and follow her. Talk about like crazy, we'd get in these like all on this, right? Like I would get in my car because I couldn't handle like not knowing if she would come back. And so it took us like maybe a year or two and me communicating like, hey, when you leave, like it causes me to go into a tailspin, right? If you need space, like if you want to go in the back like of our house and have space, I will give you space, but don't leave.
Yeah.
And I'll be okay and you'll be okay. And so now, and like, oh, in the beginning, I was so bad, all of you, I'll be honest, like she'd lock a door, I'd find a way to unlock it. Like I could, right? But after all of her, like after a few years, it was like, okay, if I give you 5 to 10 minutes of space and I find a way to take space, I mean, and I didn't do well with that space time.
Yeah.
But she did. So when I'm in the space, I'm just freaking out and I'm not thinking about what to say. I'm totally unproductive. But for her, it was enough time to calm down that she'd be willing to talk about it. Right. And it took us figuring that out. That has nothing to do with gender. That has to do with my past and her past, her personality and my personality. But when you talk about those things with a partner and you figure them out, like now she would never leave because she knows what that does to me. And I've learned to give her space, right? And it took us years, but we figured it out, right? And so that's not a gender thing, that's just a relationship thing. And I don't mind sharing that with you because I think it's really like applicable to this. And it's important to communicate with a partner, right? Yeah.
That's kind of how my like old friend was with her ex-boyfriend. Like they would fight a lot and then she would just want to leave.
Yeah.
And that would like trigger him. And there was one time that I had to pick her up from his house because they got in like this huge fight and then he like followed us around and then we like didn't know what to do. It was like kind of scary.
Yeah.
But then they ended up figuring it out. But it was just like it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and it has to do with people's preferences and past. That's the second bullet, right? Like men typically are the ones who retreat and women want to talk. But we can look at attachment style. My partner attachment style is very like avoidant. So for her, she withdraws, right? I'm disorganized in my attachment style. So I tend to be like clingy, right? And like, so that's a problem, but we've worked on it. We've gotten through it, right? So that may or may not be gender, but it's a very common thing that men retreat and don't want to say anything. It's called stonewalling. And women want to talk it out. And that can be another, you don't care enough to talk to me. Like, well, you don't care enough. It doesn't matter. Some of you are smiling, right? And the guy's like, I just don't want to deal with it. Right. And is that personality or gender? Maybe it's both, right? Yeah.
That could be overwhelming. Because that's how it was, like, that's what it is for me.
Yeah.
Still leave and I'll freak out because my mom too.
Yeah.
But then like when he comes back, I'm already freaking out and I'm like, you know what I mean? But then it overwhelms him
Sure.
because he's like, well, I just love to get space. Like, water.
Yeah.
And then I like tried, but then he's like,
For sure.
no, he's not really been.
So what I've had to,
Like,
right.
So,
What I've had to work on is finding ways to use that time too. Right. So, because for me, I would just sit there and be like,
no, that's what I do. No, I'm waiting for.
Yeah. Right. So what I've learned over time is like during that time where we're separate, I journal and put my thoughts out. I get them all out of my head and then I can look at them. Like I'll just type them on my phone. I'm like everything that I'm thinking, right? And then then I have thoughts when we come back to talk, right? Because normally I would just sit there and stare at the clock and be like, I'm waiting. I'd spend 6 minutes, one more, right?
I know.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Right. And that's a personality thing. That's not necessarily gender, but it's something that plays out in a lot of like relationships, right? And that's the essence of this. And then one last thing here, men are like rubber bands, women are like waves. So men tend to pull away, but they'll only pull away so far before they snap back. And women tend to kind of have like waves of connection and like pulling away. So these are all, again, generalizations, but they apply for a lot of people. Yeah.
My parents are both Martian communicators.
Okay.
For clarity, I do not have 2 kids.
Mhm.
So my mom does that stonewalling.
Sure.
We talked about where she's like, whenever we're out and we're like, we get into some argument, she's like, I will go home.
Yeah.
And she won't talk to me and I have to kind of goad her into talking about it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then my dad is a classic, like, I want to offer a solution to this problem you're venting about.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like that's where it doesn't always fit everyone, right? Like, and it might be personality, might be a little bit gender. I have a couple of like interesting like clips related to this. If you're thinking about like how men tend to communicate and how women tend to communicate stereotypically, there's a lot of like romantic comedies that highlight this topic. Like this is a very popular topic because it causes issues for people. But there were a couple other, Right.
At the same time, we both kind of people that like offer advice.
Sure.
And so we like kind of started to work on like asking, like, oh, do you want to just swear or you like actually give like more
Yeah.
advice? Which like this helps a lot, but it's kind of funny. People like know that we just need to listen, but we really want to offer advice.
Isn't that funny, right?
Yeah.
Like, but you know it, you're aware
Yeah.
of it at least. Right. And it's so common, like again, friendships, it doesn't have to be a relationship. I want you, I don't want to take too much time here, but I want to have you get into like just a few people around you. And just think for a minute about some stereotypical male communication, things that men tend to say or do, how you talk to men in general. Same with women. Don't worry about this last one, we've kind of talked about it, but just kind of think about like male, female communication patterns. You don't have to write it down, but think about it. I think this is great, right? You left the dishes in the living room, the garage is a mess. You never listen to my opinions, and half the time you don't even look at me when we talk. Gender translator, she says you didn't notice her haircut, right? Like, there's a lot of these kind of gender things. So I just want to give you maybe like 3 minutes or so. Think about some stereotypical male communication trends and female ones, and then we'll talk about them together. So find a few people, talk about it for just like 3 minutes.
Okay, the first thing I immediately thought of with men is mansplaining. Yeah. Or this is so very. And I'm like, wow. So now I've learned with him. I learned to like say, like once I was what's like what's that to be or whatever, like a girl. Girl with money. And I was just like, is that? And then he was like, he knows everything. No, I was like, wait, I don't want you to explain it to me. I literally don't want you to explain it to me. I should be English to this. So my boyfriend like that. So I personally. Who's trying? Sometimes like if you're and they're all explaining to each other the other explain like everyone something like okay. Just like totally ignore it, like whatever. Like, yeah, exactly. I feel like you can explain somebody like what you're saying now is everything. Then you can explain this, but if you do not know, like, yeah, if you do not know, I mean, okay, so yeah. You know, like I don't know too. Like I you literally watch she didn't do better about it. She yes. It's fine. Not like they would drop my work. We try to like explain something like that. All right. Let's start with people. Right, so again, remember these are stereotypes. But what are some stereotypically like male communications? Yeah. So the like literally when you said like like how men communicate stereotypically, the first thing I thought of was mansplaining.
Okay.
And I have a guy friend and he will literally mansplain anything to you, like,
Sure.
even if you're like, why is the sky blue? And then he'll like literally go into like the full like explanation of it. Like I have a full, I totally thought of a situation that happened one time. I was asking about like cryptocurrency or something. And I know, I was like, that was the first mistake. Talking about it, I was like, what even is that? Like, I don't get it. No, literally. And then I was like, and then I took a second, he was about to speak, and I was like, wait, don't even explain it to me. I don't, I'm not. Yeah, I'm like, I don't even get it anymore. And Abby was saying too, how like guys will like, they try to explain things to each other, like as a way to like connect almost, and not like just tell you to tell you. I don't know.
No, interesting. I think that's great. It's a great place to start. What else? What else can we? Yeah.
Talk about something we're really passionate about, and to get super excited and like, sound, I guess. And guys will be like, calm down, like, you need to calm down, and not that experience.
Okay.
Like, shut up. Let me just actually.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So misinterpreting that as like.
Yes.
Okay. Calm down, right? Other stuff, yeah.
So about like guys things, I remember. Me and my friend were just talking about some like gaming stuff, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden this guy, I've never met him, never talked to him, comes out of nowhere, like starts explaining everything he knows
You're like,
about like, one topic. That's how he introduced himself.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah, yeah, and even it's that like report, right? Like I'm gonna report and tell you information, right? Versus more report, other stuff, yeah.
That just brought up another thing. I have a group of friends online who I game with, who I've only met a couple times in person, and they're all men. And it's just so funny because like they literally know nothing about each other's lives. Like they're just talking about like new stuff. Like they'll talk about movies and like not gonna lie, stupid shit for like the longest time. And I'm like, yeah, does this know how many brothers? And they're like, I don't actually know. You know what I mean? I don't know what anyone does. I'm like, is he in school? They're like, I don't know. He lives with his parents. I'm like, bro, like you know this man for 10 years. I don't know anything about what he's doing right now.
I had the same like conversation. I have a buddy who lives up the street and we talk about football constantly. Like that's all we talk. He's a Detroit Lions fan. I'm a Brady fan. Like we talk about football. I know nothing about this guy.
Yeah.
I know his kid because I coached his kid on a team. That's how we know each other. I know nothing about him. He's all like, yeah, I work at this and I do this and like, really? And my friend was like, dude, how did you not know that? Oh, he likes Matthew Stafford and like his mom that he went to the Rams. Like I probably
Yeah.
so common, like, and I heard a group talking about that, like facts and random stuff versus like connection to what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
Those are very common, yeah.
I feel like a stereotype in a relationship would be women expect men to know. Like,
Yeah.
let's say she's mad
Uh-huh,
of something that he doesn't even know who did something wrong.
sure,
And you're expecting him to know.
yeah.
And so you sulk and they're all gloomy and dull and they don't even know what they did, but why are you upset? They don't figure it out.
Okay, yeah, and like, that's a very common one that you have to, like, in terms of communicating with them, you have to tell them exactly, like,
Yeah.
what's going on, you have to be straight and to the point, because that's how they tend to communicate, right?
Yes.
Like, kind of like the clip I played for you, like, he did not get that at all. She's like, I flirted around it for hours, and like, he needed to hear it like direct, right? That's a very common one. Did you have a?
I was gonna say. Oh my gosh, one more thing. Oh, I think like my thing for my birthday is something like you just did it in a second. I will literally call him out as soon as he does it.
Sure.
I'm like, or else he's not gonna like.
Right.
What? And it's fine, it's already happened.
Sure.
No. This is what you did.
Okay.
Or else he won't understand when it.
Needing to be very like to the point.
Right when it happens.
Very like,
Unless he's like.
here are the facts. Okay, yeah.
You get upset. I said this to my boyfriend because he likes to, I don't think he feels comfortable talking about. Like if I get upset at him, I don't think he feels comfortable like talking about, so he tries to rush. Being like, I'm sorry, I won't do it again, okay, let's move on.
Okay,
I'm like, well, no, I wanna feel upset, I wanna process
sure.
what just happened, what we did that made me upset. And then we can talk about it.
Yeah.
He's like, sorry, I love you, can we move on? Like, oh.
I'm not ready.
Yeah. Made me feel.
Yeah.
I think that's actually just a completely stupid way of expecting someone to just stop being angry at you because you said I'm sorry, it's kind of like, an I'm sorry, okay?
For you at least, right? Like, so careful with the like, because it's a judgment, right? Like, it might be stupid to you and hate that, but that might be something that's important to you, right? So that's the tricky thing about communication, period, right? Is what I want versus what you want versus what you want versus what each one of you wants. It's all different.
Yeah.
And if you don't talk about it, oh, you're in trouble, right? Like, that's where you get into trouble, regardless of gender, right? Like, regardless of gender, if we don't communicate these things to each other, we're gonna have problems, right? Period, right? Regardless. Yeah.
I feel like I think that is like influence how they were raised.
Yeah.
Like for me, like I didn't have wanted to talk to anybody. Question one.
Yeah.
So that just developed that as just the wellness future relationships, I guess. Trauma and all of these things.
Yeah.
Just my, like, what do you think someone could do? So like, if someone were to ask you and come up to you, is that what would help you be like, hey, are you feeling okay today? Like, what happened? Or like, is that you get like, how you get like a particular close there, you know?
Like then, I horrible communication.
Sure.
I can't communicate with like my feelings and my emotions, and that also is kind of influence how I was raised. So like, you know. Yeah.
Well, and some of this is so socialized, right? Like, men are, again, stereotypically, right? Men are typically encouraged to swallow their feelings, not be sensitive, not be emotional. That's a sign of weakness for men, right? Stereotypically, right? And so sometimes if you've lived your whole life that way, like the thought of changing that is just incomprehensible. That's just who you are and what you're taught, right? And again, we are like in the deep land of stereotypes, right? And keep that in mind. But men tend to not express their feelings as often as women because it's not as socially acceptable for men to be emotional as it is for women to be emotional, right? Yeah.
It's actually like really sad, just the way that men are socialized differently.
Sure.
Emotionally, because like they really are emotionally stunted. I took a child development class.
Mhm.
I remember, I mean, I can't say like for sure what I was told, but I remember hearing like immediately after finding out the gender, parents have the like a stereotype for their child.
A schema in their mind,
Right,
right?
and even at like 2 years old, if they have a male child, that's fine. They're not going to respond to that child as nicely as they would to a female.
Right.
It's something that like
It's well researched. It's very prevalent.
men my age and older and whatever, but that's something I got to work on with my brother.
Yeah.
My mom does too, because well, he's one boy out of 3 girls.
Sure.
And he has a lot of his own emotional issues. Like he's a very emotional person,
Mhm.
but being a boy, it's not going to be really recognized by anybody else.
Yeah. And you notice too, like raised around a bunch of women, that tends to impact somebody, right? Like if you have maybe grew up with a lot of brothers, right? You might be more stereotypically male, or a lot of sisters or whatever. I have a clip. This is related to talking to men. And as I'm, the whole movie called The Ugly Truth again, is all about like stereotypical male, female communication. Again, very stereotyped, but I think kind of building off of what we're talking about, right? That men and women like communicating differently, looking for different things. So over the top, right? But yeah.
My only thing, like I've been through that, like I've had, you know, that's my boyfriend, and we broke up for like a night, one night, and I did exactly what my uncle said and came right back, right? Literally.
Now, what did your uncle say?
Oh, you know, like, I did what my uncle said to do, like, I didn't talk to him, I didn't reach out or anything, came right back and was like, I can't do this without you, literally what he said, rubber band, like, the only thing is, why change how you act? Why change who you are? Because
Right.
that's not who I am.
Yeah.
Why am I gonna do that? If
Right.
you're not gonna be, you know, that's my only problem.
Yeah. Oh, and it's a huge problem, right? And that's what he says. I don't want you to be this way. You have to be this way, right? And I think like ultimately, you know, when you find someone that you're compatible with, and you can be you, and that works for them, and that works for you. Yeah, and so that's the goal. And like throughout the whole movie, like the two of them end up together, right? Like rather than like this random guy that he's going after. But it's just interesting, right? Like that men and women tend to communicate so differently. Some things I had written down that a lot of weren't necessarily said, that men are more direct, they're more objective, they have a tendency to be insensitive, they speak without thinking, short and to the point, sometimes oblivious to feelings, say what they actually mean, right? They're going to tell you exactly what they mean. Women, on the other hand, tend to communicate a little bit differently. We have sometimes still, what are some of the ways that women tend to stereotypically communicate? Let's go on the other side of the coin here. Yeah.
My girlfriend was dating about now ex-boyfriend. It was funny because we would like sit in her bed and it would be like her mom and myself, and we were all trying to like figure out what exactly to like text him or something. Sure. Like they're having like some sort of issue, and it's just funny because it was like everything she was texting was going through like three filters. And then of course, like with us now, it's like, just tell me what the heck you mean. Like we don't care. We try and just like be blunt.
Mhm.
Like, I don't need the filtered version because it's gonna get to the like non-filtered.
Okay, interesting. I like it. What else? What else could we add? Yeah.
Like kind of like on a different side, like when like, so my parents have been married for like 23 years.
Uh-huh.
And like the first time I ever saw my dad like cry was at his dad's memorial service, which obviously was like a really sad point in his life.
Sure.
But I feel like, as you said, like when men cry, it's like a sound of weakness, but also like sometimes like when you see men cry, it's at their hardest point, and it's like they need to show that emotion because like that's what's going to get them through like everything.
And we
they're
all
going
have
through.
emotions, right? Yeah.
And like also like with like divorce, I feel like it's like I feel like the way you're communicating, if you don't have a good communication like style or like a good communication method, that's what like ends like your marriage or your relationship, and like makes you separate more often than not, because like you're not talking about like what you're mad at or like what your arguments were about.
Okay, yeah, communication is a really big indicator of
Because like
relationship
we're
health.
in some serious fights, and like the last two things I could ever say is like the worst things in my life that could ever happen is a parent losing a parent and having them divorce. So like for me, I like they both come from divorced parents. So like seeing them be together for that long, it's like knowing that even in their hardest times, when they were so young, just getting their career established and getting their life all together, you see like that different ways of that, even that the hard times they still got through it and they're still together. Yeah.
And some differences in like the expression of emotion, like you were saying too. Right?
Because like with my parents' occupations, like I feel like my dad had like four best friends, and they were either in the military or in the police, and they're all divorced. And it's like, since my dad was a police officer, now he's retired, but I feel like in that occupation, divorce is so common. Like, I don't know a lot of people like of my parents' friends that are still married. Some of them are, and it's been many, many years, but like in that occupation, that like divorce is so common because of the stress of your job. So I'm like glad that in my situation that they're still together, and even with big fights, you know, they resolve and you know life goes on. But,
Okay.
My parents divorced when I was.
Yeah, and divorce, like sadly, divorce is common, right?
Yeah, and I feel like it's something on.
What are some other things for women, right? Other stereotypical female things. I have one in my mind, but if no one has one,
I think the stereotype is that women are always saying like not what they mean.
Yeah,
It's
that
like
was mine.
always playing some kind of like mind game.
Yeah, I have
I'm fine.
I have some people who are fine. Oh gosh, don't even start on that one. I'm fine is not a good thing, right? Like, what does fine stand for? Fucked up, insecure, neurotic. I used to have a close friend, and she would for Christmas, like her husband, every time, what do you want for Christmas? What do you want for Christmas? Oh, nothing, like, don't buy me anything. Don't buy me anything. But do you see where this is going? Don't buy me anything. And he'd be like, but what do you want? I want to get you something, but I want to get you what you want. No, I don't want anything, like, don't spend the money. So he would not buy her anything. And she'd be like, you don't love me? You didn't get me anything? She'd be like, she would like pout and be upset for weeks at this poor guy. And like every Christmas we'd be like, Steven, buy her a flipping present, Steven. Like go get her. get her this, get her this, get her this, get her this. But like, she expected him to know that she would want a present, even though she told him she didn't want a present. Like, that's that
Maybe
giving,
just like buy yourself something, you know, and just have the other person wrap it. That's what we do in our family.
sure,
I
but
like,
you don't love me enough to get me somewhere. You didn't love me enough to know that I actually wanted it.
I feel like it's like the thought, I want them to think of something I would like.
Sure.
They-
Yeah, right,
Don't
but
say
that
you
in
say, I don't know,
exactly.
it's an experience of pride.
No,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
What level of relationship, I'm out.
yeah, I mean, it's a really manipulative way of communicating. Like, my partner is very like if she says, I want X, she wants X, right? And I'm so grateful for
Yeah.
that. Well, thank you, right?
Yeah.
Because she doesn't trick me that way. Like for Christmas, if she wants something, she'll be like, I want this, and this, here's my list. I'm like, check, I can do this. I can get everything on your list and make you happy. And my partner, like, it won't play games with me that way, but that's a very common female, like, kind of hidden meanings. You have to read between the lines, the I'm fine when you're not necessarily fine. That's another one. There's a bunch. We're kind of at the end of our time, but we can pick up here and kind of wrap this up. And then I have a clip for women as well. It's much shorter, but we'll watch that. So I'll stop here. We'll keep going. Don't forget about the homework assignment that's due tonight. And then I'll see you on Wednesday. We'll finish this up and then we move to chapter 7 is the next one. Thank you for all the wonderful conversations. See you on Wednesday.
There was like, there's something going on at like the zoo or something? 'Cause
Oh, is there today?
I don't know, I was wondering if you knew, because there was like no parking this morning.
That's strange. I wonder,